how to better retain employees?
Sure. Understanding the other firms in the market, understanding their benefits packages, understanding how other firms recruit their employees, how many employees they have, what their compensation is, just understanding other companies. We just started recording, by the way, so for anybody who just started watching, we are reviewing Chapter 3, last week's Strategic Management. We just talked about what is strategic HRM and what is the hierarchy of goals. Now we're talking about the SWOT diagram, and HR fits externally with understanding other companies. So if we're an English teaching school, HR might understand what the other English teaching schools are doing in terms of who they're hiring, what their turnover is, what compensation and benefits they're giving. How, Ethan, how does HR help with the internal understanding of a company's strengths and weaknesses?
Wouldn't HR be able to track the company's internal metrics to measure like payments and I guess evaluations, tracking, I guess, wasted time, costs, and I guess employee satisfaction as well, if you're going to be monitoring any strengths and weaknesses inside?
Sure. HR has a lot of metrics that has to do with satisfaction, productivity, efficiency, effectiveness. So we have those things. And then in addition to that, we also have in HR, we have these, we talk about it in this week, we'll talk about in Chapter 4, we have these cards called a qualifications inventory for every single employee. So we know for all of the employees who has what talents, who has what abilities and skills, and if we wanted to replace someone, we know who could possibly replace them. In HR, we are very familiar with the people in the company. So we understand the strengths, and weaknesses of the people in the company. Okay, then we talked about business like strategies such as integration, diversification, stuff like that. I'm not going to review that. That's not so necessary. Then we talked about 3 basic strategic HR tools: the strategy map, the scorecard, and the digital dashboard. Again, I don't think I need to go into that, but you do need to be familiar with those. But we'll go through those again. Okay. On to this week. So this week we're talking about job analysis and talent management. I don't know if you guys watched the video, but we do have some discussion questions. So I think let's go right into the PPT and go through that. And then we'll save the discussion questions. Any question before we begin?
Sir,
So,
I had one.
Sorry?
Is there an equivalent of ONET in China, or it's very specific to America?
That's specific to America.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a Chinese version for HR professionals, though. There might be.
I had a question about the corporate level strategies. There was one thing that was concentration, and I don't remember what the definition was for that. And I was watching the video, and your head kind of got different.
For corporate level strategy, are you talking about the integration diversification or corporate level?
It was corporate level strategies, and there were consolidation that was reducing the company's size.
Oh, right, consolidation, reducing the company size. So you might be more familiar with the word downsizing.
Right, no, but what is concentration?
Concentration. Oh, yeah. Limiting to one line of business. Concentration is similar to having a niche or having a very narrow target of who your audience is, or having a very limited range of products. So think of a very expensive restaurant. You know, if you go to like a diner or a cheap Chinese restaurant, maybe they have 45 different dishes you could order, right? They have lots and lots and lots of stuff on the menu. But if you go to a really expensive restaurant, sometimes they have like 3 dishes. That's it. They do a few things, and they do those few things very well. They concentrate. So a lot of companies do that. For example, the company Zippo, they make lighters, and that's it. That's all they make. They concentrate on that. The company Lamborghini concentrates, right? McDonald's concentrates. McDonald's doesn't sell a whole range of different things. KFC doesn't. KFC in China has done well because they will sell other more Chinese flavors or products, but some companies only sell a few products. Apple concentrates. Well, Apple does have a range of products now, but they only really have 4 products. No, now they have Apple TV. They're no longer concentrating. You know, but to concentrate is just to sell a few products and focus your entire business model on that. Any other questions? Okay.
Yeah, I had a question.
Yeah.
So for unless you're running like unless it's like a creative or like an R&D department, why do you really need diversity for like simple jobs?
You said for a creative department, you understand why they need diversity, but why do you need it for simple jobs?
Mm-hmm. Like waiters or something.
I mean, you don't. If you're talking about, let's say, a package handler at FedEx, you know, you're talking about people who move boxes all day. Does it matter if everybody is from the same religion or the same ethnic background? Not really. I mean, it matters a little bit for feelings of fairness. If everybody is of one ethnicity or race or gender or something, there can often be a feeling of unfairness, like why are we the only ones here? But for non-exempt jobs, which is what you're talking about, hourly jobs like a waiter or package handler, no, there isn't a lot of diversity. In that case, diversity might be good because it can save the company money, like hiring old people or targeting minorities or targeting recent college dropouts. You know, you can target different groups because that's going to save you money.
How does that save money? I don't quite understand.
You can pay them less. If you're targeting people over 65, like Walmart did, nobody was targeting those people. And they needed people to be greeters in their store, which is you just stand in front of the store and you wave, hey, welcome to Walmart. Hey, welcome to Walmart. That's it. Now they didn't, at the beginning, they were hiring people in their 20s, but people in their 20s want more money. They want raises or promotions. Somebody who's 65 and maybe retired but wants to make extra money, they're less of a problem. So they had more of a surplus of labor in that category. Other ways, you can actually sometimes get a subsidy from the government. So for example, if you choose to hire prison labor, people who've come out of prison, you can get a subsidy from the government for doing that. It can save a lot of money.
So wait, you can't really like ask a person if he's been to prison on his interview though, right? That's like against the law, at least.
It depends. You can ask if you've ever been convicted of a felony. Generally, that's okay. But it depends on the nature of the job. However, a lot of jobs will not hire people who were convicted of a felony. And so if you are willing to, you can get a subsidy.
Okay.
What the difference is, there's something called work release. And work release means when someone gets out of prison or gets out of some sort of state-sponsored system, and this is in America. I don't know about other countries. In America, when they get out of a system, whether it's some sort of rehabilitation or some sort of halfway house or prison, they must have a job to be released, work release. You must have a job. And there are a few jobs that are very open about welcoming people from prison. And you get subsidies for doing that. The salaries you pay are often lower. You have to pay minimum wage, but. Okay, so let's start with today's topic. which is job analysis. Oh, and we have a presentation today. Today's presentation is Christine, Chandra, and Crystal. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well then let's just start with that. Let me make sure you can share the screen. Great. We'll talk about OOH, and then we'll get into job analysis.
Can you see?
Yes. From last week, Nicola, Misha, and Jody, you guys never sent me the ONET PPT, did you? Can one of you email that to me right now or today?
Okay, I will.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Whenever you guys are ready.
Okay. We are going to talk about OOH, which is Occupational Outlook Handbook. So here, the OOH is described as a guide for job seekers. So basically, this can help you find career information, which is under here, earnings, nature of work, training, educational qualifications, projected growth in the field, and employment right. And also, the data is gathered and updated by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Since BLS is a unit of the United States Department of Labor, it is the governmental statistic agency where collect, process, analyze, and disseminate essential statistical data to the American public and U.S. Congress. So this serves as a statistical resources to the U.S. And also, it is updated every 2 years. Here is a brief history of OOH. OOH first published in 1940s. And actually, in the beginning, it stands for Occupational Outlook Service. The initial programs mainly focused on assisting World War II veterans to making career options for their new jobs. This is how OOH started in the beginning. And 1940, Occupational Outlook Service changed its name to Occupational Outlook Handbook in 1949, which covered 288 occupations in 209 reports. And in 1957, more updates were generated to the guide in order to broaden their occupational coverage. And 3 years later, the first set of formal projections was published, and the program was then merged with other labor force projections to create the Office of Employment Projection in the 1970s. This is how OOH was established in the beginning. And I'm going to talk about practicality of OOH. So job descriptions are available in the OOH in an alphabetical listing by search or by major categories such as management, professional, sales, and administration. We will show how it works on the website later. The OOH searches available for different jobs by median pay, entry-level salary, on-the-job training, and number of new jobs, and the rate of growth on the field. And also it enables people to browse through the OOH by highest paying jobs, fastest growing jobs, and by number of new jobs as well. So here, the useful information in the OOH, there are 4 main things. So job descriptions. OOH can be very helpful for exploring careers you're interested in. And this includes job summary with education requirements, job outlook, and work experience. And second one is careers of interest. You can click on any categories tab to show jobs that fall within that area of your interest. The third one is the occupation finder. So this generates a list of possible careers by using a combination of 5 filtering factors. So you can use this list to find examples of jobs that may interest you. And the last one is highest paying occupation. You can easily find a highest paying occupation or median level salary occupations so that all the categories will show you all the jobs and how much money you will get. And also you can see to be a dentist, for example, which is one of the highest paying occupations, but you need at least 6 to 8 years of educational requirements. So you can easily search up those things. And so this is how it works that I mentioned before here in the slide. Here is, yeah, we will talk about this later, but here you can see the A to Z index and browse occupation with highest paying to, yeah, fastest growing jobs and most new jobs. And you can browse resources. And here is the occupational outlook handbook, which is categorized by highest paying occupation. So you can easily look it up on this website. And also, this is to whom is OOH useful. This is very excellent resource for employees who would like to change their jobs because of many other reasons, their salary or their life purposes, whatever, they can easily search it up. So people who would like to change their job, it will be very useful. And for high school and college students as well, because they want to learn about careers and to think about their future career path. So they can utilize this website. And also for teachers and career counselors at education level can make use of OOH in order to find more up-to-date information to help job seekers or create lesson plans for their career development. And this can be also useful to human resources professionals who can use it to compare the jobs to the standard job descriptions. And this also helps HR staff and hiring managers to develop the job descriptions for new positions. And next, Crystal will talk about it.
Okay, so I'll be sharing how you can use find some useful information on this website with a short tutorial videos, because we thought it would be easier for you to visualize the searching process and some key functions. Next slide.
Yep. Can you hear?
Cannot hear.
Oh, wait. It should work. Why it doesn't work here? Wait.
Do you have earphones on, Sandra?
Oh, yeah, maybe I should turn it off, right?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
That's fine.
Sorry, guys.
This is the homepage of OOH. I will show you some of the important areas that we should look at as a first-time job seeker. One of the advantages using this website is that they use comprehensive English and simple layout so that everyone could understand the content easily. If you have no idea which career to search, you can view occupations by group to look for a job that relating to your major, such as management or business and finance. If you already knew which position you want to apply, just type in the search box. Here we search for HR manager as our examples, and these are the most relevant matches. If you click onto the position, this will open a summary showing some industry facts related to this job. To know what are the responsibilities of a HR manager, click on second tab. It will show all the typical job duties. Next is work environment tab. Here you will find out which sectors have highest number of job offers for this position and the type of their work schedule. Next is how to become one. This tab is important to read because it shows educational requirements and additional license or certifications that you must complete in order to apply this job. From here, you also can identify the qualities needed for this position. As you can see, they even give you explanations on why that communication skill is essential to HR manager. So from here, you can understand the potential challenge that you might encounter in the workplace if you don't have that particular skill. Then we have pay tab, showing actual data on wages in this occupation. Basically, this allows you to understand the market price so that you can set a range for your expected salary. Next is job outlook tab. It gives you the projections on how and why these occupations may grow or decline in the upcoming years. And it also suggests how you may improve your job prospects. Then we move to states and area data. Click on this link, and you will see a map showing total number of job offerings and salary in different states. For example, you might need to know which state has a high employment opportunities for HR manager and which state is paying more for this position. Next is similar occupations tab. From here, you can explore some other similar jobs that cater to your interests. And finally, the more info tab, it provides links to some useful online references for these occupations, such as professional organizations, student associations, and also the outlet link for your wider research. This is the homepage of OOH.
Okay, so I will be talking about the differences between OOH and ONET, as we learned about ONET last week, so I will just continue further with the differences of the two websites. Next slide.
I'll be talking about the differences between the websites OOH and ONET. First, there is a difference with the range of occupational searches a person might be able to do in the two websites. In OOH, we can see that they broadly list the occupational groups from A to Z and has the option to browse occupations by highest paying, fastest growing, or most new jobs. However, we can see that ONET allows the person to search occupations by their abilities, interests, knowledge, and more. This function allows for a more personalized job search where they can find the job most suitable to them. The second difference is when
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we can't hear any of this. Is there any way that you could just explain it?
Yeah, sure. I have to get the website.
You're muted.
Sorry, I thought I was talking. So Sandra, maybe you can just play the video while I just explain.
Okay.
And just mute the
Yeah,
the
I
sound.
did.
Okay. So basically, there's the difference between the range of occupational searches that you might be able to do in the two websites. With OOH, you can search websites by like A to Z, so you can see that they have the occupational groups by A to Z, and it's broadly listed. They also have highest paying, fastest growing, and there was another one that I couldn't see. By ONET, you can search by abilities, skills, and knowledge. So it's a more personalized job search. And so for ONET, is this ONET? For ONET, you can search by, if you want to search the occupation that you want to search for, they give you the highest growth rate of that industry or that position, and also they show you a green, if it's a green job or green position. For OOH, they just list it broadly and give you the position and the industry. So here you can see that OOH, they give you a basic summary of the occupation and what the job entails and like the work environment and everything like that. It's more broad, very straightforward, and no mess or whatever. For ONET, it's more detailed. They give you the tasks, the skills, the knowledge, and other they have some professional terms that could be used in your CV. So that's helpful for people who's wanting to get more information on their CV and their qualities for the job. But OOH, they just broadly list it, and it's very straightforward, very simple. They just give you the qualities that entails in that industry, in that position. If you want to find the pay for the wage for this job, for OOH, you just have to click into a separate link. And this is another website that the website provides. So it's separate from the website. So this might be difficult for, I don't know, for other people looking for the wage. For ONET, you can just put in the state that you want to search for, and it will directly see, you can see the wage of that state and in that area and other statistics about that. For OOH, they also provide resources for teachers and students. So this is helpful for them to learn more about if they want for their future jobs or the economy and other stuff like that. And they also have resources for teachers as well. For ONET, there's no sort of resources for teachers and students. So it's a bit hard. They just have facts about ONET data and things like that. So yeah, that's the differences. Yeah, and we are done.
Okay, good. Please email it to me.
All right.
In the future for groups, please no videos. Those don't work so great. Okay, next week, I need to make a new group. How about, I'm thinking Camila, well, there is no class next week, so it'll be next week. How about Camila, Anais, and there's no Chloe. Is Camila here? I thought Camila was here.
She's here.
Maybe she's gone?
Here.
I'm here.
Camila. Oh, yeah. Camila, Anais, and Constance. How about you three? Okay?
Sir, Albena, she hasn't sent you a message because we were supposed to be like a group of 3 already, or you're making the group?
No, no, I didn't get a message. From who?
Abena?
Who?
Abigail.
Abigail.
Oh, no, I didn't get a message from her. But that's fine. Then what's your group? Abigail, Constance.
And me.
And who?
And Anais.
Okay, fine. So, Abigail, Constance, Anais. Your topic, I want to know at least probably 5 of the best places to find jobs. Give me the job websites, the difference between them, like job hunting websites where people would look for jobs, or at the same time, if you're in HR and you want to hire people, where would you post? So I want to know both sides of it. I want to know for people who are looking for a job, like you guys coming out of college, what would be the websites to look for jobs and what's the difference between them? And then for an HR professional, can they also post jobs on those websites? In addition to that, I'd like to know at least 1 or 2 payment sites. How much do jobs pay? You know, so when we look at OOH or ONET, these are median salaries. You know, but this is the government giving us these numbers. I don't know if you guys were paying attention to that presentation, but if you were, HR managers tell us, one of the people who just gave it, what's the median salary? It was on your presentation. Christine, Crystal, Chandra, what's the median salary for an HR executive, HR manager?
It's like 115.
It's about $116,000 a year. That's a lot of money. HR managers do very well. It is a good paying job doing HR. It's really very, very specialized. And you can make a lot more than that, you know, depending on the company. So next week, I want, in addition to the job sites, I want to know at least 1 or 2 payment sites. And I'll just tell you, for example, one is called Glassdoor, if you're not familiar with it. But Glassdoor will tell you how much different jobs pay, how much they really pay. Not the government's opinion, but the actual salaries. And I want to know things like that.
You said top 5 hiring websites for employees as well as HR workers, or top 5 for employees and top 5 for HR?
That's up to you. I just want at least 5 I don't know if you'll have time to give us many more than that.
Okay.
Cool. And you guys have a little extra time to work on it because there's no class next week. Okay. Now, let's get back to this week's lesson. Okay, let's wait a little bit to do the Carter Cleaning Company activity. I'll come back to that. How many of you guys watched the video? Raise your hands if you watched the video.
I watched some of it. I didn't finish it yet.
Okay.
Watch them.
Yeah, maybe about half of you. Okay. So as I said in the video, and some of the video some of this topic I'm going to go through pretty fast because it was on the video and there's a bunch of activities and I'd like to do the activities more than I want to just repeat myself. That's why I made the videos. So we have completed part 1 of the course, which was the introduction to HRM, what is diversity, what are all the laws, that's equal opportunity, and then strategic HR. And now we're on to part 2 of the class. And in this part, we're going to talk about those basic 5 elements of HR, right? Recruitment, selection, training, compensation, and performance evaluation. So we started with this idea of what is traditional talent management. And so traditional talent management has this idea of staff, appraise, compensate. So staff is you get the people you need, appraise, you decide if they're doing a good job, and then compensate, you pay them. That's what's called the traditional 8-step model, and that's these steps right here. But pretty much that's called the staff, appraise, compensate model. And that says, you know, from the beginning to the end, you get the people you need, you decide if they're doing a good job, evaluate them, and pay them. That's it. But modern HR is obviously more focused on this idea of what's the goal of the company. Okay, modern HR is much more goal-oriented. And so everything is about getting the right talent that has the correct KSAPs in order to achieve the company's goal. To do this, we started by talking about HRIS. HRIS is the Human Resource Information System. We talked about that a little last week with the balanced scorecard and the digital dashboard and things like that. But it's the idea of what we can do with computers. So with computers, with our software, and in about 3 weeks, one of the groups will present on HRIS. But that's the idea of the employees being able to give us a lot of information on the internet and us being able to collect a lot of information about them. And we had a couple samples. So let's get right into the main part of this lesson. So I had said this chapter, chapter 4, has 2 parts. And that's in the Dessler book. There's chapter 4 and there's chapter 4a. I separate them. In the Dessler book, there's just 1, and it's just chapter 4. And in the American Management Association book, this is chapter 3. But I've separated them into 2 PPTs, as you see on Blackboard. There were 2 PPTs, and as you see, there are 2 different videos. But we're going to cover both of those in this section. I don't know if we'll finish both of them today. Probably not. But what we're talking about really is job analysis first. Before we can recruit people, we need to analyze the job. So who can tell me what is a job analysis and why is it so important? Anais, can you tell me?
Job analysis is when you determine what exactly are the duties that are in a job, like what you need to do to get the job done.
Okay, so I would say that that's 1/2. 1/2 is what are the duties of the job and what do you need? You're discovering the duties of the job and what do you need to do to get the job done? Okay, the duties. That's 1/2. What, Camila, is the other half?
The other half of job analysis?
Yes.
One part is the, okay, I'm confused. I just know the first part about finding the duties and competencies.
Okay, but you just said it. The
Okay,
duties
so
and
competencies.
competencies. So what does competencies mean?
Those are the abilities required for a job.
So there's a difference between duties, which is another way to say this is like responsibilities, and competencies, which is more like abilities. So if I know the duties of a job, I want to hire you to be a manager in my company. I need to know the duties of this job. I need to know what you're going to do. If I'm hiring you to be a teacher, I need to know what you're going to do. That doesn't mean that you are the right person, though. Half of my responsibility as an HR manager is I need to know what does this job do? But I don't know if you're the right person. The other half is understanding who's the right person. Now you can call that the characteristics of the people, or you could call it the competencies. And we use these two things to create two separate things. One is called a job description, and one is a job specification. Nicola, which is which? What's the difference between job description and job specification?
The job description is basically what's required to the position, and the job specification is what kind of people do you need to hire?
Sure. So the job description is the job, right? So if it's a teacher, it might be you need to create a PPT and go to class and stand up in class and teach the students and take attendance and give them a test and grade the test. That's it. Those are the duties of the job. That's the job description, the duties of the job. The job specification is about what kind of person do you want? What are the abilities? Well, we want someone who's extroverted. We want someone who speaks very clearly. We want someone who's friendly. We want someone who's kind of serious. We want someone who's diligent. Those aren't duties. Being diligent isn't a duty. Being serious isn't a duty. Being friendly isn't a responsibility. These are characteristics or abilities. It's the kind of person we want. So a job analysis has these two parts, the job description and the job specification. And most of what we're going to talk about in this chapter or this part is these two things, the job description and the job specification. Then we'll talk about the job requirements matrix and the competency model. And those are the big four things we talk about. So with this job analysis, once we get this for each job, then this has a lot of benefit for us in HR. Once we have our job analysis, and the job analysis is separated into a description of the duties and specification of the person, from there, and you don't need to write this, just look, but from there, we understand what are the training requirements. What kind of training do we need? From there, we understand how to evaluate what is a good job, like what is good performance. How should we pay people? What wages should we give people? How do we decide if someone is doing a good job? How do we know if someone is following the law? How do we recruit people or select people? All of these things, we can do them as soon as we know what the duties of the job are and what kind of person we're looking for. But we have to know that first. I talked in the video a little about business process reengineering, but I don't really think we need to talk about that. But just the idea is that in order to re-engineer, which means like rebuild, not a job, but a process. So for example, let's say in our company, okay, we are an English teaching company. And for a student to pass all of the to pass all of our lessons, they need to take the TOEFL exam, and they need to take the IELTS exam, and they need to get certain grades, and they need to pass all of our classes with a certain grade, and they need a letter of recommendation from their teacher, and they need all of these things to pass our school. That's the process. Now, maybe we want to change that process. We think that's too bulky. Or the process of you graduating from Donghua. There's this whole process. You have to go to all these classes, get grades, write a thesis, defend your thesis, do an internship, have social hours. There's all these things in the process. If we want to streamline or make the process more simple, we would do it the same way with the job analysis. So we would measure this stuff. We would identify ways to improve this. So the first thing to do with the job analysis is to collect information, or with a process. If we want to know what is easy about the process of graduating CIP, what is difficult about the process, well, the first thing we need to do is collect information. If I want to know what the hardest part about graduating CIP is, one, if I want to know what the hardest part about graduating is, who should I talk to? In your opinion?
Someone who has graduated already.
Like,
okay,
yeah, someone with experience.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, you're the guys to talk to, or recent graduates, right? Those are the people who I should talk to. So if I want to start collecting this information, how do I collect information, whether it's for a process or for a job? The first way I do it is with interviews. So I'd sit down with you guys and I'd say, look, you're recent graduates of Donghua. What was hard? What was easy? What was good? What was bad? If CIP wanted to analyze the teachers, they should sit down with the teachers and interview us and talk to us about it, right? That's the first way. What's a questionnaire? Bella, what's a questionnaire?
It's a piece of paper with questions on it.
All right. It's a survey. Doesn't have to be a piece of paper. It could be the internet, but it's a survey. Yeah. So you give people surveys to find out information, observation. So I want to know the good and bad of all of these. So interviews. What's a good thing about interviews? Who can tell me something that's a benefit of interviews?
They're face to face, so you can kind of see the emotions better. Like you can kind of read the tone better.
Sure. They're very rich. They're very information rich because you can see the person, you're face to face, you get all these body language signals, these facial cues. So it's very rich. You get a lot of information. What's a drawback of interviews?
Distortion information?
Sure. Sure. I mean, you might not get the honest answer. If my boss says, David, tell me about being a teacher, I might say, oh, it's wonderful. My God, it's the best job I've ever had in my life. And it's just so wonderful. But you know, what if I'm talking about how hard it is because I want more money, I want a promotion and I want a raise. So I say, oh my God, this job is so hard. I work 24 hours a day, every day, being a teacher. It's, you know, so you're going to get a distortion of information when you're face to face. Questionnaires. Can someone tell me a benefit of giving people a survey?
I think it's more genuine, like the answer. They would tell you what they really think and not like in the interview, I think.
Okay, maybe it's anonymous, or it's not anonymous, but they're not there. That's possible.
Very specific. You can see the specific task that employees are doing.
Are you talking about questionnaires or observations?
Questionnaires. With an inventory of specific tasks, you will be able to see, like.
Well, with observations, you can see, you can watch them. With questionnaires, you can certainly ask specific questions, but there's nothing to see.
Yeah.
Another benefit of questionnaires, you can give a survey to hundreds of people very quickly. Interviews take a lot of time. you know, if you want to interview people. But a questionnaire, you can give it to every student in CIP today and get the results and put them all into the computer and have charts and graphs and everything by tonight. Super fast, you can ask a lot of people. Observations, watching people. So benefits of watching people. Jody, what's a benefit of observations?
So maybe you can see directly what they do in the job.
Sure. If you watch me teach class, you'd obviously learn about what I do. What's a drawback? What's a negative about observations?
Takes too much time. If you have
Sure, they take a lot of time. Anything else?
I think it may be some kind of pressure towards the one like individual you're looking at.
Sure.
Maybe you don't perform.
If you're watching me today give a class, I might teach differently than I do other days when I'm not being watched. So again, distortion of information. What about a diary or a log? What is that?
Like journals to get like a long-term picture of the activities, but daily.
Okay. And what is good about having people write a daily journal?
Because then you can actually see in a long term what they did in a
Sure.
period of time.
Absolutely. You can look back over months and see what they did. Constance, what is a drawback or a negative of having people keep a journal every day?
You
I don't
have like unnecessary information, I think.
so.
Maybe. Maybe.
It's also take too much time. Yeah.
So it definitely takes time for the person who's writing it every day, but for the manager who has to read, you know, hundreds, potentially hundreds of pages, it can really be very, very slow. So yeah, it takes a lot of time. And electronic analysis is just, you know, doing any of this stuff online. So there are benefits and drawbacks to all of these. And I talk here a little about the interviews, right? The benefit is you can see people face to face. You can ask them questions. You can follow them down a tangent. The problem though is distortion of information, that people might exaggerate how hard the job is or minimize and say the job is not hard, especially if it's related to their payment. That we need to be careful because people will change their answers. Questionnaires. So questionnaires, surveys can be very good. You can ask a lot of people and they can be open-ended, or you can ask very specific things. But some of the problems with questionnaires is that it can be very dry. It's like people, you're not getting much information because it's just people filling out a survey and not speaking to you face to face. With observations, right? And so here's an example of a survey. We talk about that in the video. Observations, that can be really good because you can actually see what people do, but it takes a lot of time and there might be a distortion of information. And then keeping a journal can be great because you get a very complete picture of the job over months or even years, but it can take a lot of time for the manager to read this stuff. Okay, so then we talked about sort of a basic example of a job analysis where for an interview, you might sit down with the employee, you would say, okay, we're gonna do a job analysis. You start by getting a summary of the job, you identify their functional duties, you identify tasks that they do, and you always make sure to get the employee to sign. Whatever we're doing with employees, we want them to sign their name to show that they saw it and they agreed when we were together. Any questions on that? No, okay, so that's a basic job analysis. Let's take a look now, let me stop sharing for a minute, and let's take a look at the Carter Cleaning Company. So I can send that to you in the chat if you guys don't have it. This is Carter Cleaning Company 4. Okay, so that has been sent. you can download that. And what I would like you to look at is question 2 is the one I want you to look at. So take a minute, read this, and then I'll put you in groups so you can talk about it. Everybody got it? You download it?
Yep.
Yes? Okay, I'm going to put you in breakout groups then.
Okay. So question 2, David. Okay.
Sorry, I just came in.
Did you finish reading it?
Not yet.
Okay. Jonathan, you finished reading it? You're muted.
Yes, yes, I did.
All right, well, what do you think about question 2? Obviously, they have terrible turnover, 400% per year. I mean, that's crazy. So she's got to do something to reduce turnover. I mean, they can't go on like that, not if they want to expand.
I mean, it says right there, like in the last paragraph, that they're pretty limited money-wise. And because like money would be the first motivator, right? So you increase
Yeah, they're not
the
going to do
salary.
that.
Yeah, you could increase the salary and get people who are actually willing to do your job for longer.
Assume
but
you can't. Assume that there's no way
Yeah.
Jack Carter is going to
So-
accept earning less.
So the other method would be to build a pool of applicants who make sense for the job, right? Who really want the job and not are like doing the job because maybe it's a quick job they can just do and then move on. So that would be like longer recruiting, specific recruiting. Then also what they could do is maybe offer shorter hours. They could build a benefits package for employees, maybe that they can get their stuff dry cleaned for like way less money or maybe
I mean,
free.
they said you can do that. You can get your stuff dry cleaned for free.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? Camila?
I think they can
Sandra?
also improve the working environment.
Okay, how?
Like, it says somewhere about like air conditioner, so they could probably add that, and also some benefits.
Okay. Might cost them money. Any other thoughts, Jody? What's something they could do that's not going to cost them money?
I don't know, sir. Like, for me to engage the workers, you should pay more. Not just that.
Yeah, well, they're not going to. I mean, if you get a job if you finish CIP and get a job and you work in HR and your first suggestion to the boss is, I think you should pay everybody more, you're going to get fired. You just get, that's not why you study HR. Not a reasonable answer.
And I mean like bonus. So when the workers
Money, that's
get
money.
something that it's, yeah.
You're talking about money. It's the
Then,
easiest answer in the world. Give them a holiday, give them shorter hours, give them more stuff, give them free air conditioning, have them take care of their kids while they're working, give them. You know, that's nothing. The boss doesn't want to hear that.
You try to create rapport between the employees. So for example, I think we studied either here in management, like about clothes, things like that. So creating sort of a basis in which employees would want to stay with the company.
Okay, so discuss that for a minute. I have to go to another.
The thing is, I don't know if in America, like the moment you raise like the minimum kind of salary per hour, if it's not like how to say, unfair competition.
Right.
I don't, for like work like that, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe
So
I don't
David,
know what's the minimum wage.
most of us agree like the HR should do some of re-engineering process, you know, because most of the competitors are doing the same thing. They're important. So if we change a little bit things in the work environment, maybe we could retain more people.
Okay. So changing the environment, that could be a good answer. You said re-engineering the process. What process?
Yeah, no, I maybe I'm not so clear. I would say like changing the environment, you know, not the process in sí.
Well, I think the process is an interesting idea too, because getting hired is a process, right? Like you see an advertisement, you contact the company, maybe you write out an application, you have an interview. That's a whole process. And right now, all of the companies do the process the same way. They might be able to re-engineer the process. I mean, it's not a bad idea. All right.
If you, sorry, if you're raising their like, for example, if every worker's like for this kind of work, they're like paid $12. If you're raising their salary, is it like considered as unfair competition?
No, of course not. You can always pay more, but you can never, as an HR manager, suggest that. You know, they don't need you to be an HR manager to say pay people more. Everybody knows you can pay people more. So giving them bonuses or holidays or shorter hours or benefits or, you know, Jack doesn't want to hear that. Jack wants you to know some way that doesn't involve giving them more money. Okay, let's get back together with everybody and talk about it. Okay, so some ways besides money. Any ideas of what Jack could do besides just raise the salary or give a benefit or give a bonus? Or can somebody, Ethan, what did you guys think? I wasn't in your room.
So we did mention like kind of giving a little financial incentive, like not as a bonus, but also kind of I think, focusing on building a relationship with your employees. I mean, that doesn't cost anything, but with these kind of workers who feel like they can just leave and go somewhere else because maybe they don't feel appreciated, they just want something else to do. If you kind of build a relationship with them where they feel that their voice is heard, that they come into work every day and their boss is nice, friendly to them, then they're not going to be like, oh, screw this job, I want to do something else. Like, I'll just find something else. This guy's a dick. I'll stay here and keep working. And also, like, if it's uncomfortable, kind of, as you said, like maybe an investment. If it's hot where you're working, get some fans, like simple.
That costs money.
I know, but just a little bit to ease the
No, that costs money.
strain of working.
No.
Okay. Then just relationships, building relationships with your workers. That goes a long
Relationships
way.
will keep you cool.
What we talk about,
Yeah, there we go.
yes, it costs money to buy fans, but it will probably make employees want to stay longer. And for jobs like working at a washing cleaning company, you get more experience the more you work there. So it would make more sense for them to want to do old employees and make working conditions better for them than like having to worry about like $50 for a fan.
Yeah.
I don't ever think Jack wants you to suggest he spends money. You know,
How about
contract?
How about hiring people? Oh, you go first, Jody.
Okay, thanks. What about contract between the company and the workers?
What's wrong with what kind of contracts? You think they don't have contracts now?
First, when you interview the worker, I would say like you need to stay here for 2 years to work.
I wouldn't sign
And then like legal contract.
I'm not sure I'd sign that contract. But okay.
Only hire ex-cons.
That's not a terrible idea.
No.
They just want the job. They're not gonna leave you.
Yeah, they're not going to cause problems. They already did.
So maybe, okay, Bella, what were you gonna say?
Do you not believe in change, Ethan?
No, absolutely. No, like I'm not saying holding against them. Absolutely, they want another chance, but it's like
ignorant statement.
A lot of times, like they don't get other chances. Like there's not a lot of like I mean, in the States, like 3 strikes you're out. So it's like if
all right, so we're all
one or
for
two
hiring
chances.
ex-cons. I think we're all on board with telling Jack he should have nothing but ex-cons work at his laundry places. But okay, Bella, what was your suggestion?
Yeah, I also wanted to say the same thing, like hiring people who, no, not ex-cons particularly, but people who might really, we feel like they really need the job and like the money and they're not going to leave.
I mean, I think that really is an idea. In the same way, they could go to shelters, they could go to welfare offices, they could go to places where you do find disadvantaged people who are maybe more willing to do this job. Now, I think that doesn't work alone. Along with that, you would need to be able to provide some positive relationships What's another thing you could give people that doesn't cost money? Any thoughts? What can you give someone that doesn't cost money?
You can, I don't know if my answer is right, but what about training employees, and just be careful for having like arbitrary standard when it seems like customers are not really satisfied with their services. So I thought maybe better training or be more like have accurate standard when selecting employees.
Sure. Well, I think training is definitely a great answer, that you can give all these people training to do more than just wash clothes. So you can have a manager training program so that they can rise up. They can learn some of the things that Jennifer knows. In terms of performance standards, I think that is important. I think it's important to have clear standards for them, but I think it's also very important for Jennifer to understand what is the right kind of person for this job. Right now, she's going to hire anybody. And I know Jonathan had said that in the group, and it seems hard because according to this example, they just need people. They'll take anybody. But the problem is, because they'll take anybody, they're taking a lot of the wrong person. And those people are going to quit, and that's going to cost them money. And they might be better off, rather than having more people and some of them quit, just take less people. And while you won't make as much money in the short term, you'll make more money in the long term because you're having the right kind of people. So what Jennifer, I think training is good. What Jennifer and her father didn't do at all is they didn't ask the people who work there now what could make this job better, aside from money. Jennifer is guessing, maybe air conditioning, maybe more money. But the big problem is we, as managers, we can't really answer these questions. You know, all of the methods that we get for information, for giving information, come from the employees themselves. So what would we want to do? What should Jennifer do? She should conduct interviews, give questionnaires, do observations, have the managers write journals. That's really the first thing that she should do. Because we don't know, maybe the number one complaint is that it's too hot. Maybe the number one complaint is people have children and they need some sort of child care. Maybe the number one complaint is people don't like the hours that they're working. You know, who knows? Because she didn't ask them. So somebody had said, you know, give them a voice. And that's a really, really important answer, to give people a voice when we're writing a job description. So let's talk a little now about how to actually write this job description. So what is it? So the job description is written, and it discusses really three things. What do you do in the job? How does someone do it? And the conditions. So you cannot write the specification first. You need to write the description first. So what kind of job do they do at the Carter Cleaning Company? Well, you wash the clothes and you check the clothes to see if they're stained, and then you put them in the machine and you put in the chemicals and you press the buttons and then you take it out and you fold it. How do you do it? You know, how long should it take? Each load of laundry should take 1 hour, and you have about 100 customers come per day. And what are the conditions? You are standing, it is hot, you know, just an honest appraisal. Now, should Jennifer guess on what the job holder does? No, she should ask them. Should Jennifer guess on how they do the job? No, she should ask them. Should she guess about the conditions? No, she should ask them. You know, that's the big problem right now, is they're really, and you have this in so many companies, that the managers try to guess what they think the employees want instead of just asking them. But you can't just ask. You really do need interviews and surveys and observations. You need a whole process to write this job description. Okay, and I gave you an example of a sample job description, which might look something like this, where you'd have like a summary of a job. You'd have on top some basic information. You would have the scope of the job. You'd have who it reports to, the location. You'd have any sort of KSAP or KSAOs, things like that. But here's what we expect in a job description. So number one, we expect that there will be an identification. And that's the information on the top. The identification is what's the name of this job, what's the department, what's the salary, and usually we have a grade, which we'll talk about when we get to compensation. But generally, salaries in a bigger company are given in grades, like your grade 4, grade 3, grade 2, and then that grade is a range of salaries. The job summary is just kind of the sort of general picture of the job. You know, you'll come to school and you'll prepare and teach English classes. You'll work with students after class. You'll grade their exams. That's it, just like a general 1 or 2 sentence summary. Relationships. Who do you report to, which means who's your boss, and who do you supervise? And that's inside and outside the company. Who's your boss and who are you in charge of is the relationships. Next, your duties. Now, this is going to be a more specific list of the tasks and the duties. Next is authority. What kind of power do you have? And do you have the power to hire people or fire people or what? Next is standards of performance. So what is good performance and what is bad performance? How do we judge for this particular job what is good or bad performance? What is our benchmark? What is our best practice? You can say this a lot of different ways. It could be based on a satisfaction rating. Like if you're a teacher, we want an 85% satisfaction rating. It could be based on productivity. And we'll learn later in this class how to actually calculate productivity. I think we learned it in management also. But it's like the number of hours that you work. It's the amount of profit that is made in a period of time divided by the number of hours you worked. So if you made $100 of profit for the company in one day and you worked 5 hours, you made $20 an hour for the company, right? That's your productivity. It might be your efficiency. It might be your length of service. Maybe a standard of performance is that you've done the job for 4 months or 4 years, you know, any sort of benchmark. The working conditions, and we've seen this in ONET or in OOH, things like, are you standing? Are you sitting? Is it hot? Are you inside? Is it noisy? Is it dangerous? Anything like that. And then after that, we have the job specifications, which we haven't gotten to yet. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to ask you guys, and I'm going to put you in little groups, and I'd like you to write a summary of a job. So, you know, one of the jobs, there's some crazy jobs, and one of the jobs I had found recently is the UN actually appointed what's called a space ambassador. So this woman, Mazlan Othman, she's Malaysian. She is the space ambassador to the UN now. And what that means is if aliens come to America and they say, we want to meet your ambassador, that's her job. She heads the UN's Office for Outer Space Affairs. So there actually is an office just in case the aliens come. And she's in charge of that. And so, you know, it got me thinking, how did you write a job description for that? So I'm going to put you in little groups, and I want you to write a job description for one of these people. For the job of a ninja, a space ambassador, a hippotherapist. That means somebody who does therapy involving horses, like stroking a horse or riding a horse or feeding a horse. That's a kind of therapy. Hogwarts, Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, kind of a dated reference. A crime scene cleaner, they clean up the blood at a crime scene. A zombie hunter, a pickup artist teacher. They teach, usually men, I suppose, how to pick up women, though I suppose they could teach women. And a professional bridesmaid, which is a more common job in Korea or Japan, where you can pay them to be a very attractive bridesmaid at your wedding. So I'll ask you to choose one of these jobs, and then I will put you in breakout rooms. So Let me put you in breakout rooms. And all I want is a little summary. I want like a 3-sentence summary of the job.
We can choose again, I think.
Which one do you choose?
We didn't choose yet.
All right. One of you guys just pick one.
Go ahead, Camilla. It's your decision.
I don't remember them all, but I would like to do the space ambassador one. I think that's interesting.
All right. So do the space ambassador one.
Okay.
So, sir, quick question. Are we supposed to do a full job description? So like identification, summary,
Just
relationships?
I'd say the summary and the responsibility, the summary and the, what do I want? Who you're responsible to, the relationships. That's it.
Okay.
Summary and relationships.
Okay.
Give me a couple sentences about what this job does, and then what are the reporting relationships.
All right, all right, all right.
Major functions.
I don't know.
Activities. Attend the what do you call it?
Wedding?
Yeah, attend the wedding. I mean, like, you know, when the bride is wanting to try on her dress. What is that? Bridesmaid.
Fitting?
Bride. Yeah, fittings. Like
Just
to attend all
doing,
these.
like, all the normal duties of the bridesmaids.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
she
guess.
should like plan some.
Did you
Keep
guys
going.
pick one?
Yeah, we're doing the Harry P reference. The Dark Defense Against Dark Arts.
Thank God somebody chose that. That's my favorite.
I thought everyone was going to choose that one.
Yeah, I thought.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh, that one's good.
Okay, so classes for teenage wizards, teaching dangerous spells, maybe?
I guess you could even broaden like working in a dangerous environment. It's not just spells. It could be werewolves. It could be lots of different things that mess with your day. Work environment, who you're working with, accommodations provided. Like, would that be part of the job, kind of like thing like that? Because you're gonna live it. You're gonna live in the school.
For sure.
Accommodations and food.
Yeah, accommodations and food. You got house elves, free cleaning service as well. They clean your place. So those are all, yeah, little additional benefits.
I don't know, maybe you have your own house, right? Like Gryffindor or Slytherin.
So I don't want to get too into the weeds here, but like, so the houses have their own like teacher who is like kind of takes care of like their house, but then all the other teachers would just have like kind of where they live, have their own kind of apartment set up.
So you might
there's
have additional responsibilities.
Yes, you could. Yeah, there's room for growth. You could, yeah, take on more responsibilities.
Are you in charge of anybody?
Yeah, you're in charge of the students in your class.
Sure.
Yeah.
And who
You
is
get
your
to
boss?
be Dumbledore if we're going at that time period.
At that time, yeah.
The headmister, headmistress. We're going. What else? I was gonna say something. You get to decide your own curriculum. You get to kind of decide what you're going to teach as well. So you don't have to follow a strict plan.
You have to wear dark clothes.
All the time. Cloaks. You got to like cloaks. Robes.
Now maybe we're getting into job specifications.
Okay.
All right, good. I'm going to close the breakout room. Good
All
stuff.
right. Thanks, Steve.
So can I get a summary from the first group about, you guys did Space Ambassador, right?
Yep.
Can somebody give me a little summary of the Space Ambassador job? You did it. Camila, you do it?
Okay, so we said the summary is preparing for an alien invasion, and also she or he is in charge of meeting aliens when they first arrive to Earth. So that's our summary for the Space Ambassador.
All right.
She reports to the General Assembly, I guess, if she works for the UN, and she supervises her embassy, if she has one. She's not just alone.
Any of you guys read any conspiracy theories about the aliens? Some very interesting theories out there. A lot of conspiracy theories that after that World War II was actually each of the big major countries had different aliens on their side, and that it wasn't about a world war. It was about different alien races being represented by people. A lot of weird stuff. Wasn't that last year they did the Area 51 in America? All these people protested outside Area 51 because they wanted to go in, right?
Yeah.
Anais, are there aliens here among us now?
Lizard people, they're everywhere.
The lizard people, yeah, they're everywhere. Anais gets it. Okay, the second group, you guys did, what did you do? Oh, professional bridesmaid, right? Can somebody give me a summary? What is a professional bridesmaid's job summary? Who did that? Right, wasn't that one of the groups?
Yeah, it was us.
Okay, Bella, can you tell us about it?
So it's a professional bridesmaid. She's going to attend and take part in organizing, first of all, a bachelorette party and also the wedding. Well, she's going to do all the things a bridesmaid does. So she's gonna accompany the bride all the time, like through all the steps, and make sure that everything is in place and is just going well. And also comforting the bride, like emotionally, if she's not only there for the good looks. If she's coming from a company, then she needs to report back to the company also. But the bride is also like, has kind of like power or authority over her, because if she's the one who hired her or the maid of honor, I'm not sure. And she needs to have like good organizational skills, and also she needs to be honest and easygoing, like reliable.
Isn't the whole job a big lie? How does she need to be honest?
No, she needs to tell the bride if she looks bad. Otherwise,
really?
Yeah, the bride will look bad in the photos, and then we'll sue her.
Okay. In Japan, they have to be able to cry on command. That's an important skill. Oh, really? Okay.
No.
How about, okay, last one, defense against the dark arts teacher at Hogwarts. Somebody tell me a job description, a summary.
Right, so we said that a typical day at the office, you have to make classes for teenage wizards. And sometimes it can be a dangerous environment. You're teaching dangerous spells. You're in charge of students and you report to Dumbledore. You can decide your own curriculum, like what you want to teach to the students. And there's also availability for growth in the field. And you probably have to wear dark clothes, but that's...
Maybe. Okay, good. Okay, let's take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and get into job specifications. Okay, we're now recording again. So we were just talking about job descriptions. We did our little activity. And now let's talk a little about job specifications. So there's not too much to say about this right now. With job specifications, we're going to talk more about that, when we get into selection and we talk about personalities and personality tests and different sort of projective personality tests to try to find the right person. So when we talk about selection, that's really where we get into analyzing the personality that we want. For today, what we're talking about is KSAO or KSAP. So we start with ideas of the job requirements matrix. So the job requirement matrix is something we create from the job description. It's our transition from the job description, the tasks and the duties and the conditions and how the job is done to what kind of person we want. So some of the basic questions we're going to ask ourselves is, do we need someone who's trained? Do we need someone who has an MBA? Do we need someone who knows how to use Excel? Or can we train the person? Can we have somebody untrained? That's going to be a basic decision for us. Of course, we're going to have to use our own judgment, but we don't want to use just intuition. We don't just want to meet someone and then think, okay, they're good for the job or they're bad for the job. We'll see that a little more in the next part of lesson 4. So with a job requirements matrix, let's talk about that first. Here we have the job description part. That's weird. We have the job description part. So we talk about what are the tasks of the job, the duties of the job, and then like what kind of task are they? Is it a supervision related task? Is it a word processing task or a clerical task or a communication task or an administrative task? And then how important is it in terms of our time? So on this side of the chart, we're talking about the job description. And then we add some of our KSAs or KSAO or KSAP. So what does that stand for? KSA. Jody, what's KSA?
I don't know, sir.
No, Ethan, what's KSA? No, anybody? What's KSA?
Knowledge,
ability.
skills, abilities.
Yeah, knowledge, skills, ability. So now we're talking about the person, right? Not what duties do you do when you're a teacher or when you're an advertising manager or when you are an HR manager or when you're a salesperson. We have all these duties that you do. And we know those from our questionnaires and our interviews and our observation. And, we got all this information. So if you're working at the Carter Cleaning Company, we know what your tasks are. But what kind of knowledge do you need to do those tasks, to be a teacher? And then what kind of skills do you need to be a teacher? And then what kind of abilities do you need? So sometimes we say KSA, sometimes we add an O, and O just means other. So it's KSAO. Sometimes we add P, KSAP, and P means personality. So when we get into our next subject after the October holiday, we'll talk a lot more about personalities and what kind of personality traits do we want in an employee? Do we want an extrovert or an introvert, somebody who's very logical or somebody who's more intuitive? And how do we figure that out? What kind of tests can we use as HR executives or HR managers to determine that? For today, let's not talk so much about personality and let's talk about knowledge, skills, and abilities. So what kind of knowledge do I need as a teacher? Well, I need to have a knowledge of the subject. Maybe I need to have a little bit of knowledge of classroom management. I need to have some knowledge of how tests work. How much information can I put on a test and how long should the test take? And I have to have some knowledge about how to give grades. I mean, there's certain kind of knowledge I need. What kind of skills do you need to be a teacher? Maybe you need to speak clearly. Maybe you need to be able to research and organize. What kind of abilities do you need? You certainly cannot be afraid of public speaking. So you need the ability. That's not a skill, right? That's not knowledge. That's sort of an ability. So we do have a difference between knowledge, skill, and ability. Let's look, before we get into what the difference is between those three, knowledge, skills, and abilities, let's look at a couple more requirements matrix. So here we have tasks on the left and KSAs on the right. Another way to say this, job description on the left, right? Job description on the left and job specification on the right. What is the job? What is the person? Looking at another example, same idea. On the left, we have the tasks, the job description. So we have, here's the duties of the job, supervision, customer service. On the previous one, they had that in the middle, you know, but it really doesn't matter where you put that. So you have the duties, then you have the specific tasks. Then you have how important is that, and how much time do you spend doing it. These are the four basic elements we have for the job description part in the job requirements matrix. We're going to talk about how important is this task. So as a teacher, how important is organizing class? How important is teaching class? How important is classroom management? How important is creating a test? Then how much time do you spend doing that? What percentage of your time? Obviously, this needs to add up to 100. Now, on the right, we have our job specifications where we're talking about the worker. And here they give a 1 to 10 with an E for essential. And here we have some abilities. We have some skills like time management. We have some knowledge like different kinds of software, the ability to work with diverse people, negotiation skills, leadership ability, communication skills. What are these differences between skills and abilities? What do you think, Jonathan? You know, it says listening skills, communication skills. So they're calling that a skill, right? Communication, they're saying, is a skill. Listening is a skill. Negotiation is a skill. Time management is a skill. What is a skill then?
I guess something you can kind of like train still.
Okay, so you can get better at communication. You can learn to do that. You can certainly get better at time management. You can get better at negotiation, right? So skills are things that you can improve. Ability to delegate, even though you could probably improve that, that's an ability. It's a natural ability. Some people have it, some people don't. Sure, you can get better at it, but some people just naturally have these abilities. Knowledge, of course, is something you learn. So we're separating it into three things. Knowledge is something that you can learn. Anybody can learn it. I mean, some people are good at languages, and some people are good at math, and some people are good at chemistry. And, you know, we're all good at different things. But knowledge is something you learn. Skill is something you get better at. I would not say anybody learns communication. You can all communicate, but you can get better at it. And an ability is something we're born with. That's what we talk about in HR. Looking at another kind of job requirements matrix. Again, on the left, we have the tasks, right? The job description. So here on the left, we have the specific tasks, and then in the middle, they have the dimensions, supervision, word processing. So in the previous one, they put that on the left. In the previous one, they put that in the middle, the dimensions. It doesn't matter where you put these things. How much of your time is spent on each area, you know, they put these into two areas, word processing and supervision, but you can organize these things however you want. And then on the right, we have the job specification. And here they call it KSAO. So knowledge, skills, abilities, and other. What is other? Other is personality, really. So we have things like knowledge of the office, the policies, you could learn that. You could have knowledge of typing formats or knowledge of spelling. These are all things you could learn. You could have skill in prioritizing, or skill in interaction with diverse people, or skill in using WordPerfect. And these are things you can get better at. And then we have some abilities. The ability to match people to tasks according to their skill. Some people just have that. Or the ability to proofread. Some people are just good at that. So we have knowledge, things you can learn, skills, things you get better at, abilities, things you're born with, and other, which is like your personality. Now, what we do is with these KSAOs, our goal is once we're creating this kind of matrix, and it's called a matrix because, you know, it has 4 boxes, but once we're creating this kind of matrix, then we want to create a profile for every job. And that is a separate card or document or, you know, file or something for every job that says what is the perfect person. So a profile is an example of the perfect person for this job. So that when you're hiring someone, let's say Donghua is hiring a teacher, they have one document that says all the tasks and the job requirements and everything that you'd have to do as a teacher and the conditions and how you do it. But then they also have a sort of perfect person. You know, so what would be the perfect teacher? Would it be someone who's lived in another country for more than 5 years? Someone who speaks more than one language? Someone who has these sets of knowledge, these skills, these abilities? Just like we might create a dating profile, or in the police might create a criminal profile. A profile is a description of a person. So when we put this all together, our description of a person. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever, you know, had a dating profile or you've seen a TV show where they do a criminal profile, but it's a description of a person and their personality. In HR, we put this into what we call a competency model. And that's a triangle that is kind of reversed. It starts out very broad with the name of the job. So HR manager. The next one is the foundation competencies. So what on a personal level, what knowledge, skills, abilities? On an interpersonal level, what knowledge, skills, abilities do we need? And then for HR or business management, what knowledge, skills, and abilities do they need? Then we have areas. So areas is even more broad. You know, it's not just specifically, you might need to know how to manage tasks effectively. You might need to know how to motivate people. You might need to know how to manage vendors or how to communicate effectively. These are all these skills and abilities. What is that? Well, that is, you know, strategic planning, or that is general management. These are just the areas of knowledge we expect you to have. So for a teacher, it might be like work with students, communicate effectively, write tests, behave ethically, have good judgment, come to class on time. Here would be all the, you know, the blue part is probably the biggest. What are the areas of knowledge for an HR teacher? HR, pedagogy, which is the study of teaching, maybe general management. That's it. These are the big areas. And finally, at the top, what are your roles? Is this line or staff authority? Do you coordinate? Are you strategic? What are your roles? So this is called a competency model. And we would want to create one of these for every job that we have. So it's similar to a job description. The difference is this one has more, it's more specific about the person. This is similar to our profile for HR. Now, we don't have personality in this, but you can put it in. So in a survey, for example, you know, by the SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management, 93% of executives at 500 executives said that these models are very important for what they do. It's very important to have these models. There's no standard list. It's, you know, every model could be different. You might have a model that has personality. Somebody else might have a model that separates and it has knowledge, skills, abilities, roles. I mean, you can, it doesn't have to look like the one I just showed you. It's just the idea of having some sort of chart. The one I showed you is a triangle, but it's some sort of chart that lists the perfect person for the job. And generally, we're going to have at least 3 categories. The core competencies, and that's every employee in the organization. Okay, things like communication skills or teamwork. We expect everybody in the organization to have these. It doesn't matter if you're a teacher or an administrator or a guidance counselor or you work with HR, or it doesn't really matter. We expect everybody to have these skills. Then there's job specific, which we call functional. And job specific skills, that of course is different. A teacher has different competencies than someone in HR or someone in finance or someone in advertising, or I have different skills than Roland, who was hired to do more social media. And then there's a separate kind of competencies for leadership, like decision making. In discussing KSAPs and KSAOs, the last part of this section, I had given an example in the video. And the example was, do you know how to cut hair, right? And the idea was, everybody knows how to cut hair, theoretically, right? You just take scissors and you cut it. But that's not really what we mean when we say knowledge. Knowledge is theoretical. So you could read 10 books on cutting hair. It doesn't mean you can do it. You can read 20 books on how to fly an airplane. It doesn't mean you can do it. But you have the knowledge, right? So knowledge is theoretical. You can learn it from reading. And having knowledge doesn't mean you can actually do something. Abilities, like I said, are things that are natural, things we're born with. So some people can just cut in a straight line, and they just have that ability. And then skills are learned. But they're behaviors. They're practical. So that's the difference between a knowledge and a skill. Knowledge is theoretical. Skills are practical. And we can learn more about theoretical things, and we can get better at practical things. And then personal characteristics.
Go hand in hand, right? Like you can't
sure.
have one without the other, essentially.
Well, I mean, you can. I could sit in my apartment and read books and articles on color theory and how people should dress and what colors match with each other. And then I go outside and I just wear black pants and a white shirt every day. You know, even though I
have skills without knowledge, though, right?
You're saying, can you have skills without knowledge?
Yeah, I know you can have knowledge without the skills, but skills without knowledge.
How's your let's see, what's your mother language? Russian?
Yes.
Okay. You could speak Russian amazingly. Could you teach grammar, Russian grammar, at a university level?
No. Okay, I see.
But you have the skill.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of people can speak English perfectly. They couldn't even tell you what verb agreement is or something like that, you know? There are a lot of things we learn to do. Whether or not we could teach someone else to do that, you know, that's a whole other thing. Some people are amazing fighters. You know, they have that skill. They know how to fight, but they don't know anything about the art of fighting or names of things, or, you know, definitely possible to learn things, learn behaviors, but never actually gain knowledge in them. Okay, so it's possible to have any combination of these. And our competency model is what gives us the profile of what we want for each job. So I gave an example in a video, like a swimmer has certain knowledge. He also has certain abilities. He just was born with certain things. The ability to hold his breath, right? That's an ability. That's not a skill. Swimming itself is the skill. That's a behavior that he learned. And then maybe he also has a personality that's suitable. Or a baker. A baker learns knowledge, but that's not enough. You also need skills, which is practice. And then abilities might be just being a careful measurer or very organized or very clean or things like that. And then maybe having the right personality. Okay. I had another one of these exercises that I wanted you to write a KSAP for a dog. I don't think we need to do this. This is silly. A dog food taster, bed tester. Anybody know what is an oshiya? That's in Japan, when the trains are really crowded, they have people whose job is to push everybody into the train. What, somebody tell me, let's just do this together. What's a KSAO? What kind of, would you need any special knowledge to be an oshiya?
Maybe anatomy?
It is not. It's
So you
just
don't break
Anatomy, that's funny. Somebody else, what'd you say?
Train capacity.
I think you'd have to know train capacity, sure. And yeah, you maybe a little bit about anatomy, sure. What kind of skills, things, behaviors that you can learn would you need to be an oshiya?
Stress management.
Sorry?
Stress management.
Sure, probably. That might also be an ability, right? We'd want people who have the ability to have people yell at them and not get upset. That's an ability. They would need the skill of pushing, right? They would need the skill of dealing with crowds.
Yeah, and also like when will be enough people, like how many people I must push, you know what I'm saying? Like if people coming, still coming and you say, no, now it's enough. That's the limit.
The capacity.
The capacity.
Yeah. How about a professional mourner? That is just like a bridesmaid. It's somebody who's hired at a funeral to cry. Would you need any special knowledge?
Acting.
Maybe.
Man.
Maybe acting. I mean, if you're really good, maybe you actually need to learn something about the person who died. Special skills? Sure, you have to know how to be sad and be a good actor. I would say acting is a skill more than a kind of knowledge. You could read 100 books on acting. It doesn't mean you're going to be good at it. Some people have a natural ability to do things like that, to cry on command or something. You certainly need the right kind of personality for this.
Psychopath.
A psychopath is not really the right kind of personality.
No, to be
All
able
right.
to command, I think.
Lots of actors can cry on command. It is definitely an ability they can learn. Okay, I wanted to do an exercise called forced choices. And the reason I wanted to do that, and I will share it with you guys so that we can do it together. Forced choices in HR, we sometimes need to deal with, there's 2 pages to this. We sometimes need to deal with situations that have to do with ethics and morals, right? So somebody comes to our office and they're very upset. A lot of times in HR, you do have to deal with people who are upset. And they come to your office and they might tell you a situation that is, you know, like there's no, a lot of times at work, there's 2 bad choices and there's really no good choice. And so in HR, sometimes we need to consider a variety of bad choices or situations where bad things happened, but you need to move on. And so what I'd like you to do in the forced choices, there are 6 of them. And I'll put you in little groups and I will ask you to read number, like for number 1, for example, Let me show you number one. Did everybody download them?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so let me just show you what I want you to do. So like, here's the forced choices number one. Read A and B. So A, the much admired girls basketball coach at a well-known high school privately gives birth control information to students at the student's request. B, a much admired boys football coach known for his outstanding win-loss records teaches boys how to cheat in order to win games. And I want to know which one is worse.
B.
Which one to you, and here's the key idea, conflicts with your own value system? Which one do you think is wrong? More, because they're both maybe wrong, but which one is more wrong?
B.
It's not a right answer. There is no right answer to this. I mean, I might say I agree with you, or I could say I disagree with you, but there's no right answer to it. So take a minute, I'll put you in groups and discuss these.
B. For the first one?
Yep.
Probably B.
Mm.
We can all agree birth control's pretty good and important.
Yeah.
Well, let me read number two. This person habitually drives recklessly during rush hour traffic.
Do you need me to send it to you guys again?
Well, I have it.
No, I think I was sharing my screen. I don't know if you guys can see it. No?
There
Sorry,
it
can you
is.
repeat that?
I said I was sharing my screen. I don't know if you guys can see it.
No, I just see you. Oh, okay, there I see you.
Yeah, there it is. Okay.
So I think for the first one, I would go with B. I say it's worse.
They probably don't have another like outlet to go to, so she's just helping them. So I think that's not that bad if the students come to her for help or information about the birth control.
Okay.
About number two.
I don't know. To be honest, I don't see the problem in the
A, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I thought it was like a man orienting a woman's, but it's woman with woman.
Yeah, number
I don't
one
know.
isn't that bad. Go on to number two.
Okay.
So a business person habitually drives recklessly during rush hour traffic in order to earn more time. Divorced parents fight an extended custody battle for their children, each thinking the other parent is unfit.
Which one conflicts with your values more?
B, because
B.
the parents' behavior will have a strong effect on the child on the long term. But the A, like he can kill people also.
Exactly.
So, and he's also displaying a bad behavior to his children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't know.
for
I'm
A,
having more problems with A. I
Same.
feel like in A, there is the potential of more people getting hurt than B.
Yeah, and for B, it just shows that both parents are willing to go to the end to the fight for their children. So I think it's like a good. I mean, they're not just like giving up straight away or letting the other parent just take the child. So I think it just means that they're both willing to fight till the end for their child. For A, it's just like recklessly driving, no matter. I mean, it's the time can be like he can just get off work early or something. I don't know. Like if he wants
I
to
think
spend more
that's a
time,
very good point.
with their
That's
family.
a very good point. Although I would argue A is more physical harm and B is more emotional harm.
And if you have your
Right.
parents constantly fighting and saying like your mom is bad, your dad is bad for this and this reason, I think for the child it's like pretty messed up.
But I also see your point. Yeah. All right.
Complicated. This is
Try number 3.
Okay, a religious
number 3 is the worst.
abusing children enrolled in religious education. A teenage father is charged with murder for smothering his infant.
Why? Because yeah, he did like volunteering and then later like asking more money. Like I mean that's kind of, yeah, it's not really right to do.
You're on number 5?
Yeah. But I mean, for number B, even though he's a beginner interpreter, if he has a good like skills and specific like knowledge, then I mean he can ask for more money. So I don't think it's not really wrong. I don't know. I still think A is worse than B. Like, it's. What about you guys?
A is pretty messed up. Funeral. I mean, if it was anything else, if it was just translating, it's like a convention or something, you know, but a funeral, that's dark. You know, to translate or to interpret at a funeral and then bill the family. It's like the family isn't sad enough. Now you want to bill them. Yeah, A is pretty dark there.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I agree with your logic that in B, if you're a good interpreter, maybe why would you care that you've been doing it for 6 months and someone else has done it for 6 years?
Yeah,
if you're doing the job well, I mean, that doesn't violate my values. I don't believe in seniority. I don't believe that people who've been somewhere longer automatically should get more. That's just not a value I have. But some people have that.
Discrimination. Whereas, you know, like giving athletes better grades, yes, it's wrong, but at the same time, it helps them because, like, for example, a lot of students in America get like scholarships for sports. So allowing them to pass certain classes to keep practicing is kind of justifiable if you want to think about it that way.
Well, I don't know. If they don't pass the class, I mean,
they can't play in the teams. Like if they fail some classes, they can't play.
They wouldn't get like a scholarship for sports or anything, right?
And the school will lose a lot of money.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
that exactly. So it's more about the school. They don't really care about the students.
Right. Well, a lot of schools can pay different scholarships to people and everybody because their football team or basketball team makes so much money. That's where they get a lot of their money from. Now, if those athletes don't pass their classes and they can't play, now you have less butts in the seats and less ticket sales. You know, I'm not saying it's right, but that's the logic of it. Racism is kind of a different beast.
I think 5A is worse.
For 5, let me read 5, hold on.
I think pretty much everybody agrees on that.
Yeah, definitely.
That's just so dark. If it wasn't a funeral, you know, if it was something else, but a funeral, that's terrible.
Yeah, no, it's a definitely.
It is worse.
Oh,
All right.
For 6.
I'm going to close the rooms.
I think 6A is worse.
What about number 6? I think everybody got up to number 6, but 6 is kind of a hard one. You think 6 is A or B?
A.
Personal feelings regarding abortion.
It just. What does it say?
Like an interpreter refuses to interpret for an emergency medical abortion because of personal feelings regarding abortion.
I can share it. Number 6. So the first one is refusing to interpret because of personal feelings regarding abortion versus refusing to interpret because a sexual abuser is known to make sexually explicit remarks to previous people. Which one is more in conflict with your values?
I mean, it gotta be A.
You think A? Constance, do you agree?
A too, because it's supposed to be your job and you don't have to be subjective, like about your political opinion, especially for such an important matter.
Okay, that's true. It's an emergency. All right. Fair enough. All right, so, you know, the idea of forced choices is just, there are times in HR where it's just bad, it's just a bunch of bad situations, and we need to figure out what are we going to do in these bad situations. But, okay. We still have a little bit of time. There's no reason for us to leave early. That's no fun at all. I'm not going to see you guys for 2 weeks.
Sir, can I go in 5 minutes? I need to go to my job.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let's start talking about Chapter 4A, the second PPT. Let me pull that up.
Is 4A for the next lesson? Just we have 10 minutes.
Well, I mean, it's not really because they're together. They kind of go together, this 4 and 4A. You know, so as much as we can get done of it, that's great. And then I think no, I didn't put up the next video yet, the one for Chapter 5, which is selection. And that in the Dessler book is Chapter 5, right? Selection in the Dessler book is Chapter 5, yes. And in the American Management Association, it's Chapter 4. So the American Management Association is one behind. It's Chapter 4, testing. In the Dessler book, it's Chapter 5, called selecting. That's, I mean, we're not going to finish this probably today because I don't want to rush through it, but there are some things that we can get to today. You know, we can, usually we can stay a little bit later. So let's start with this idea of what is employment planning and forecasting. So if we are HR managers, the first thing we need to do before we hire anybody is make the job analysis. We can't do anything until we have a nice, good job description that helps us make our advertisements. We have our job specifications. We know the profile of the perfect person for this job. We know the job requirements matrix. We have the KSAOs and the KSAPs, and we know what we're looking for. That's our absolute first step. What do we do after that? Now we have these documents. We have this job description, job specification, job requirements matrix, profile, competency model. We have this stuff. Now, what do we do in this process? So this is what we call workforce planning. Before we can decide who we're going to hire next, we need to periodically, occasionally, review the company and see what positions we will have to fill. So we should always know in HR what kind of positions are going to start opening up. So in the Carter Cleaning Company, that's another big problem that Jennifer has, is she doesn't know. If you ask her right now, how many people do you need to hire? She would probably say, oh, as many as we can. That's not a real answer. She didn't do workforce planning, and she doesn't actually know very specifically in the next 3 months, how many people does she need to hire? And she needs to know that. Now, for most jobs, we call that workforce planning. For an executive job, like a senior manager, we call that succession planning. And that means when someone leaves the job, either they quit or they retire or something like that, we need to have someone ready. It is terrible for our productivity if a senior level person leaves the job and we now have to try to do interviews, because I mean, you have to run. This isn't somebody washing clothes. This is like somebody running a whole department. We really need to make sure we have the right person for that, for succession planning. So once we're doing this every few months, we know what kind of people we want to hire. Now we have to know our steps in this process. And I have sort of 9 steps that I expect you to be familiar with in this process of recruitment. And the process very generally looks like this. These are not the 9 steps. This is just very general. So we start with this idea of how many people do we need? So for example, Jennifer in the Carter Cleaning Company, how many people does she need? Well, let's say she says, I need 20 new people. And she's going to forecast, right? In the next 6 months, based on what's been happening in the past, I know how many people are going to quit and I need, 20 new people. Then she's going to recruit, which we'll talk about. How do you get this pool of people? Now, once you have some candidates who want the job, you don't just give them the job. First, they complete an application form. Then you take away some people. Then you have some other people left. You will use selection tools like tests that we'll talk about later. And then whoever's left over, then you give them an interview, and then you're done and you decide who will become an employee. So these are our general steps. And we're kind of here now. This is where we are right now. And we'll talk about these 2. Today we'll probably only talk about, we probably won't get to this part. Then in lesson 5 after the break, we'll talk about this. And interviewing we actually do talk about a little in this lesson. So here are the steps in recruitment. So let's talk about these first and then we'll go through them in detail. So first is this workforce planning idea. Having an idea in HR of how many people you need to hire. Forecasting is knowing how many people are available and how many people you need. Then we'll use a workforce planning system, which will be an internet-based system to start organizing all of these people. We'll do internal and external recruiting. Internal, we have to make sure that we have a job board. And external, we might use a temp agency. We might use contingent employment. We might use the internet. We then might want to target diversity. After that, we'll start with our application forms and creating advertisements. And then at the end, we'll talk about how we get ready for this interview. Once we have these 9 steps, now we should be able to do what Jennifer needs to do, which is figure out how many people she's looking for, how she's going to find them, how to target specific groups, how to create the right application forms, how to create the right advertisements, and how to prepare for interviews. So we just said workforce planning is just the process of seeing how many people you're going to need. Next is the workforce planning system. Well, actually, I had forecasting next, but let's switch these and let's do workforce planning system next. A workforce planning system, as I said, is a computer model. Now, it could be a model of how many people you are going to lose, how many people will probably quit based on your past, that's forecasting. But what we're talking about really here is scanning the environment, like an external labor scan. What is the labor market in your city? Or a workforce scan. What age of people are available in your city? A projection model over the next 5 years. Are there going to be more diverse people? Are there going to be more unemployed people? Are there going to be more young people looking for jobs? All of these are models to show us, to show us digitally in the coming months and years in this area where we're doing business, what is the workforce going to look like? Will there be more Black and Hispanic people? Will there be more Asian Americans or Asian people? Will there be more people who are elderly, over 65 and not retiring? Will there, you know, what's going to happen to the labor market so we can start to plan long-term for how we're advertising and who we're targeting? So we look at that to get an understanding of, you know, first we're doing the workforce planning to understand our company, how many people do we need? Then we're doing the workforce planning system to understand the environment and what do the demographics look like. Then we can start forecasting. So with forecasting, now we're talking about how many people do we need to hire? And that can be based on a number of things, right? It could be based on a trend. That's the most common, is looking at the past years. So Jennifer might look at the last 10 years of her company and see how many people quit every spring, how many people quit in April, how many people quit at different times. And based on that, she will forecast how many people, you know, what are their future needs. Ratio analysis is when you look at a factor, a causal factor, a factor that causes change. So one example would be sales volume. As the sales go up, you need more people. So if you have in the Carter Cleaning Company, they have a certain number of people who wash and clean the clothes. Well, what if they get more sales? They make a deal with a local high school or a local university or a local elementary school, and suddenly they have much more business. Well, of course, if their sales go up, they need more people. And they can just look at the ratio of sales to people. Like when they are selling $10,000 a month, they need 15 people. And when they are selling $20,000 a month, they need 20 people. And they can just look at the relationship between these two factors. There could be some other factor that they use, such as the season, right? In summer, as the weather gets hotter, more people might be washing clothes. And do they need more people? As the temperature changes, how many people do they need? So it's looking at a factor that can change, like sales or temperature or season, and then looking at that factor and seeing how that affects the number of employees that are needed. A scatter plot is looking at two variables. So let's say they had season and sales, and they made a chart. So they had a chart with an XY axis like this. And over here on this side was, let's call this temperature, and let's call this sales. That's not nice. Temperature and sales. And they would have points, not a line, but points. So if over here is sales, temperature and sales. When the temperature is, you know, whatever, 20 degrees Celsius, then sales were over here. And when the temperature was 30, then sales were over here. And when the temperature was 40, then sales were over here. And when the temperature was 15, then sales were over here. Okay, well, we start to be able to kind of make a line that touches as many points as possible. And that is going to tell us if our sales are going to go up or the temperature goes up, approximately what is the number of people we need. Right? So a trend analysis is looking at the past. A ratio analysis is looking at one factor changing, and you might just have two columns of data. And a scatter plot is looking at two factors. And the example they gave in the book was a hospital. So the number of beds is one factor, and the number of nurses is another factor. So they looked at different hospitals, the number of beds, and they looked at how many nurses are in those hospitals, and they made these points, and that creates this line. And now they know if they're going to build a hospital that will have 1,200 beds, how many nurses will they probably need? They'll probably need this number of nurses. And they got that because they looked at two different factors in a variety of hospitals. And we could do this if we want to know how many teachers we need in our school. or we want to know how many salespeople we need in our company, or we want to know how many clothing washers we need in our laundry company. Whatever it is, we can look at different factors to try to figure out how many people we need. And that's all called forecasting. Now, with that forecasting, figuring out how many people we need, all of this goes into our computer system, our HRIS, and we need to have what we call a qualifications inventory. So let's say that we are running a school and we need, 5 new English teachers. We need 5 new English teachers, and we think that we might open a French department and we might need 1 or 2 new managers. So you guys are all the teachers now. And some of you do advertising and some of you do marketing. And, how do we decide which of you is ready to become the manager? Should I just use my feelings and say, oh, Jody's a really nice guy. Maybe he'd be a good manager. Or should I look at your resume? How do I know? And the way I would know is through a qualifications inventory. This is still part of forecasting. But instead of forecasting how many people we need, I'm forecasting who in our company is ready to go up, who in our company is ready to be promoted. So I would have like a document or a file on each of you. And I would say, okay, Camila has been a teacher at our school for 3 years, and she has an 85% satisfaction rating with the students, and she has a high efficiency and productivity, but she's been late a few times and whatever. We have all this information on you. Now, if we wanted to make Camila a manager, does Camila know has she ever had a manager experience before? And maybe the answer is no. But we really like working with Camila. So what should we do? Well, we should already know the kind of training that Camila needs, and we should be able to offer it to her. Because we should know what her qualifications are, and we should have, so let's say right now Bella is our manager, and Bella just told us today that she's leaving. She's given us her 2 weeks notice. So Bella right now is the manager of our children's English department, and we need to replace her. Well, we should have a position replacement card, which is a card for each job, and it shows possible replacements. So it might show, we think Camila has potential, but she has some training that's required. So we have 2 kinds of cards or files. One is for the person, and the person, we call that a qualifications inventory, about what qualifications does Camila have to be a manager? Does Chandra have? Does Bella have? Does Juan have? What are the qualifications this person has? So that we know, along with our job requirements matrix and our competency model and our profile and all this information, we also have this information on, and here's the key word, promotability. Okay, the job requirements matrix tells us some things. The competency model tells us some things about the kind of person we want for a job. The job description tells us how to do the job. The qualifications inventory tells us the promotability of an individual. Is this person ready to be promoted? We also
David,
have another question.
Sorry, is it not, the role of the manager? The manager above, like the Bella, for example.
Sure. So let's say you're the manager above Bella, and Bella says that she's going to quit. Now you say,
yeah.
So you come to HR, and we're going to have a meeting to talk about who you would like to replace Bella. And you say, well, in your department, you think Christine is pretty good, and you'd like to replace her. But is Christine ready? Now, we in HR have qualification inventories on Christine. So if you want her, cool. We know what training she needs. So we're going to sign her up for our online manager training, or our online work ethics training, or our online sexual harassment training, or whatever training she doesn't have. If you want her, okay, But is she ready to start that job right now? We in HR should know that.
See.
And then there's another issue. Let's say you want Christine. And we say, well, look, Nicola, Christine is good. However, we have this other person who you don't know very well. He's over teaching in the adults department. His name is Jonathan. And Jonathan, we think, is really ready for a manager position. We'd like you to have a meeting with him and just have an open mind and consider him. Because in our business, all the departments work together, and we might have someone in a different department who you don't know very well, but we think he's really ready to be a manager. And we'd like to know if you're willing to train him a little bit in being a manager. Right now, it's the perfect time. You need to train somebody, he's ready. And then Christine's next for whatever management opens up. And you might say, no, I want to work with Christine. And okay, we can negotiate about these things. In fact, when I've done some consulting work, like for Volvo, this was a big problem they had because so you know, a Chinese company bought Volvo, right? Geely. The Geely car company bought Volvo. And one of the problems they had is Volvo is an old company with a lot of history. There were managers, Volvo was Swedish. There were Swedish managers who had worked in Volvo for like 25 years. And the new Chinese bosses would say, okay, so, you know, this, whatever your name is, you know, Jürgen, you've worked in engineering for 25 years. Well, we've got this new guy, Xiaozhang, and we think Xiaozhang really needs training. But for the last 5 years, Jürgen has been working with Christine. And he thinks that she is the one to take over the department. And the Chinese bosses say, well, yeah, I know, but Jürgen, you have 25 years experience. We need you to train our new Chinese managers. And he says, I don't want to. He says, it's bad for my department. And he's right. It is bad for his department, but it's good for Geely. It's good for the entire million-person company that we have somebody with 25 years training people. So, you know, what can we do? And that's a lot of what I came in to work with them on, is to have to understand how you would talk to someone who's been there 25 years, who isn't comfortable with changing. You know, but how do you, you know, make him understand this is good for the company? You do not want him to quit. You want him to stay and you want him to train your new people. But there's got to be some sort of negotiation of what does he get, or if he's been training Christine for the last 5 years and he really wants her to replace him, maybe that can happen, but maybe like next year or something. Or maybe there's job rotation where Christine's not quite ready. She needs to rotate into another area so she can learn more. But the point is, you have a very important say as a manager, but there's information we have in HR that's useful to you. You're right that you make the decision. You just come to us for more information. Information about the people, information about the job, you know, information about the performance, the potential, the training required, all of this stuff that we should have. So we would have a job like there's a vice president, and if this vice president quits, then we should know who could replace this person. So here's somebody who could replace them, Mr. or Mrs. Smith. And we'd say there's no development required. We have a little chart over here, their performance, their present performance, and their potential. So right now, this person, however, we think they are questionable and their present performance needs improvement. This person, let's say it's, you know, Diane Jones, she doesn't need any development either, but she has outstanding performance and she's ready now. She's going to get the promotion. Now, let's also remember, you know, John Abel, because he needs some work in finance and production. He needs to take a course in strategic planning. He's not ready, but he will be someday. And we want to make sure that we know for our people, even for Jennifer, you know, even though these people come and go, she could have a file that talks about what training is required for different people so they can go up and become managers, especially because as they open more locations, They want to be able to recruit from inside their company. And to do that, you really need to know the qualifications of the people you have right now. Another issue is keeping the data safe. That's something we have to think about a little bit in HR, is making sure, you know, background checks or drug tests or any of that information stays safe. Social security numbers, any health information, any personal information, anything like that. In HR, we do have a lot of sensitive information. So that's part of our job. You know, if Nicola comes in and says, hey, Dave, I want to promote Christine. And we know in HR that she recently failed her drug test. Well, I mean, that's privileged information. Maybe we could just tell you, I'm sorry, she's not available for promotion right now. Because you don't necessarily get to know that information. HR gets to know that. You don't get to know everything. Okay, so the next thing to get into is recruiting. However, I have already kept you guys for an extra 15 minutes, and I appreciate that. So I will stop here. I won't get into recruiting today. So right now, what I want you to do before our next class. So next week, there's no class. I haven't talked to you much about your midterm exam. Now, the way I'm going to do this semester, it's going to be a written exam. It's not going to be an essay. The final one will also be short answer questions. I think all of you have taken classes with me before. You know the kind of questions I like to give. So this will be written. It's not going to be too hard. It's going to cover all the things we've done so far. And I plan to hold it at the halfway point, which will be week 8. Now, what I'm going to do, because we do have some people who don't attend this class because of the time difference. So I have to talk to the administration, to Mei-Ling, and see whether I want to hold it in class or whether I want to give you guys 24 hours, where I'll just give you, 12 hours or something like that to go onto Blackboard and click on the exam and take the exam. I'll talk about it more when we get back in terms of what you should study. But for now, what you should be doing is making sure that you have your materials for this open book exam. So whether you print out the PPTs and you have them, or you have the discussion questions, what I would do is make sure you download the discussion questions. We have 1, 2, and 4 up right now. I'll put up 3 and I'll put up 5 as soon as I get those done. And then just download those and make sure that you can answer all the discussion questions, or that you know where in the PPTs to look to answer the discussion questions. And then I will talk about it a little more when we get back, but it won't be that hard. It will be a written exam, and I will give you a period of time to do it. Any questions about that? Okay. I mean, I'll tell you right now, what we're going to cover up to that time, we've already covered 3 subjects. We covered, the introduction to HR, all of the stuff about laws, the strategic HR. Now we're doing, topic 4, which is recruiting and job analysis. We will finish selection. That's topic 5. And then I think we'll probably also finish topic 6, which is compensation. And that's it. That's what it'll be about. Probably, I think I won't even put compensation on it. So it'll be up to section 5. And what that means is you'll have the videos and the discussion questions and everything within the next few days that you need. So you can already start to kind of just look at all the discussion questions, make sure you understand them all. And that's when we get back. If you have questions, just ask about the discussion questions. Okay, any other questions? No? Okay.
I had, hold on, sorry, I had a few. Just a second. So when you're actually starting out, like with a new company, or like you have a new HR department, where do you get the information for like forecasting or workforce and succession planning? So, like,
it certainly depends what country you're in. I know the most about doing this in America. So in America, there's a lot of government websites that just like the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So if you Google the Bureau of Labor Statistics for any state in America or any city, it'll tell you the percentage of people who are over 65, the percentage of people who are earning minimum wage, the percentage of people who are different ethnic groups. And it just gives you a lot of projections and information. What is it projected to be in the next 6 months, the next year, the next 3 years, the next 5 years?
No, but I mean like specifically for a company, like if like a small company decides to get like an HR manager, where did they really get the information about like how many people they're going to need? Just past experience, past data?
I'm sorry, if you said you're new HR manager and you want to know what? You want to know the availability of labor?
You want to know, like, for example, like we mentioned forecasting, right? Like how many people are going to need for,
oh, you want to know how many people you need, not how many people are available.
Yeah, where do you get that information if you don't really have the data?
Okay, so there's really two choices. One, like you said, it's a new company, so you can't say what is the last 5 years. There is no last 5 years, it's just a new company. But then you need to look at the competition. You need to look at other businesses that operate in a similar industry to you.
Okay.
How do you get the data on other businesses? In English, we say by hook or by crook, in any way you can. Call them up and ask, call up HR, tell them you're a journalist doing research. Try to meet people who work there, interview people, anything you can do.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, great. Let me transfer control. I'm going to transfer control to, I'll give it to Christine. Okay, Christine is now the host. Okay, so guys, have a great October holiday. WeChat me with any questions or email me with anything, and I will see you guys after the holiday. Okay,
thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.